Senator, you are the whip. You count the votes. Does Pete Hegseth, the pick to run the Pentagon, have them?
Well, he certainly has the qualities that we need to lead the Pentagon. He knows about a fit fighting force. He is very qualified, in my opinion. He has a distinguished record of service in the military. Every senator gets to speak for themselves, and they will do that.
Hi again, everyone. The one thing you didn't hear there, yes, it's 5 o'clock in New York. This hour, President Joe Biden will convene a briefing on the full federal response to the devastating and tragic fires in Los Angeles. We'll bring you any and all updates on that as we get them. But we begin with what you just heard there. That was Republican Senator John Barrasso answering the question this way, saying, quote, every senator gets to speak for themselves. And how, just one day before Donald Trump's choice to be the defense secretary will be questioned on the Hill, does not sound the same as, yes, we have the votes. It sets up what will be a very interesting and consequential and possibly dramatic scene tomorrow as Pete Hegseth, the Fox News anchor and National Guard veteran, appears for his confirmation hearing. Since Hegseth was selected by Donald Trump in November, numerous allegations and questions have spilled out into public view. News that he financially mismanaged veterans organizations that he was in charge of. News that he abused alcohol and would sometimes show up to work smelling of alcohol. And news that he sexually assaulted women. In fact, he paid a settlement to a woman who said he sexually assaulted her at a hotel in Monterey, California in 2017, although no charges were filed. And Pete Hegseth has never been charged criminally with sexual assault. All of the claims against him, in fact, are claims that Hegseth denies. With regards to what the woman alleges, Hegseth said it was a consensual encounter. Senate Democrats, meanwhile, have voiced their concerns about him. Senator Jack Reed, the top Democrat on the Senate Armed Services Committee, which is holding tomorrow's hearing, said last week this, quote, today's meeting did not relieve my concerns about Mr. Hegseth's lack of qualifications and raised more questions than answers. As with any nominee for this critical position, Mr. Hegseth must undergo the same high level of scrutiny as prior Secretary of Defense nominees. Senator Tammy Duckworth, also on the committee, and the senator who served in Iraq said this, quote, he is not qualified to do the job. He has managed fewer people than the manager of an Applebee's, end quote, meaning it will be left to Republicans to move Trump's pick along if they choose to do so. A point made in New York Magazine in this quote, it is the first serious test of Donald Trump's newly invigorated strongman model of governance and of whether he can continue to bend the Republican Party to his will. On Friday, we learned the top two senators on the Armed Services Committee received the FBI's background check on Hegseth, a coveted resource for them in light of these allegations, and one senators have been asking for. NBC News reports this, quote, the 25-member committee does not necessarily need to review Hegseth's background check to proceed with the nomination hearing, but two committee sources familiar with the process said it was unprecedented that the report took this long to get to the panel's top members. That is where we start the hour with Democratic Senator Richard Blumenthal of Connecticut, a member of the Armed Services Committee. Senator, I'll start with this. Have you asked to see the report, and do you know anything of what is in the background investigation into Pete Hegseth?
We've asked to see the background report. We've been denied access to it. In fact, we've asked repeatedly, myself and other members of the committee, and we've asked for other records. I've written to the leadership of the committee twice asking for documents and other materials that relate to his financial mismanagement of the two veterans organizations that he ran into the ground. But let's be very clear, Nicole, even with what we know in the public record so far, he is probably the most unqualified nominee for a position of serious consequence in the United States government in recent history. It would be unserious, a joke, except that the position is so consequential, commanding 3.4 or more million Americans dedicated to our national defense, serving in uniform, putting themselves in harm's way, risking their lives. And he has never run an organization with a budget larger than $15 million. And those two organizations, he ran into the ground with deficits year after year, spending more than he received. And so I think we have enough right now to say to every member of that committee, there should be a no vote against Pete Hegseth.
I wonder if I could ask for your reaction to this. There's a 22-page police report in Monterey, California that's been released about an accusation, an allegation of rape. Pete Hegseth has never been charged, but the company he worked for, Fox News, did settle with the accuser. And a letter was sent to you, to the Senate Armed Services Committee, or to your chair and ranking member, from Fox News's Gretchen Carlson and Julie Brzezinski. It says this, quote, as survivors of sexual misconduct at Fox News and co-founders of a nonprofit organization dedicated to eradicating silencing mechanisms in the workplace, we write to you to share our perspective. While Hegseth has allegedly released the survivor from her non-disclosure agreement, his attorney has threatened to sue her for defamation if she were to come forward to discuss what happened to her and if her testimony were to prevent Mr. Hegseth's confirmation. Hegseth's threats cast a chilling pall on women who simply want to speak out about sexual misconduct and should be in and of themselves disqualifying. Have you asked your ranking member to talk to the accuser, or what efforts have the Democrats made to ascertain the truth about these disturbing accusations and allegations?
We've sought more details, Nicole, but let's be very clear. The attorney for Pete Hegseth has threatened the accuser, the survivor of that sexual assault, with a lawsuit, defamation, part of a purposefully and relentlessly conducted campaign to discourage critics from coming forward by the transition team, Trump transition team, as well as Pete Hegseth's lawyers. Abhorrent if his goal and theirs is actually to elicit the truth. We don't want to put pressure on the accuser to come forward against her own inclination or interest. She's the survivor of a serious alleged sexual assault, but it goes to the qualifications that he would bring as Secretary of Defense, or his lack of qualification, to lead women in the military at a time when sexual assault is still a scourge there, and where we need a concentrated campaign against sexual assault, where we need reforms to stop sexual assault. He is the least qualified of any of the candidates I can imagine to lead that effort, and it will impact adversely on recruitment of females for the military, which is a very important goal right now. He has said he wants lesser roles, including non-combatant roles for women in the military. That's not the kind of Secretary of Defense that America deserves right now.
Yeah, I mean, you made the tie that I was getting at. I mean, I think in year 9 of the Trump story, we all know that some of the things that whistleblowers take to Congress and some of the things that end up on the pages of the Washington Post or the New York Times are voices for the voiceless. And I just want to show you a little bit more about what Pete Hegseth, in his own words, has said about women in the military, who obviously can't speak for themselves in these 24 hours ahead of the beginning of an effort by Republicans and Donald Trump to confirm Pete Hegseth. Let me show that to you.
I'm straight up just saying we should not have women in combat roles. It hasn't made us more effective, hasn't made us more lethal, has made fighting more complicated.
And I also want an opportunity here to clarify comments that have been misconstrued that I somehow don't support women in the military. Some of our greatest warriors, our best warriors out there are women who serve, raise their right hand to defend this country and love our nation, want to defend that flag, and they do it every single day around the globe.
So I don't know what women will view as a graver threat to their safety if they're serving in the military, especially overseas or in combat roles, the gaslighting or the truth. But I leave that up to them. But again, these are not women who have the power to speak up or speak out because of the structure of the military and the chain of command. What is your commitment to them?
It's going to mean that they have every reason to choose careers elsewhere, as much as they want to serve the greatest nation in the history of the world with the most powerful military, with the skills that they will bring not only to combat, but also to preparedness and readiness. We need more women with those skills. And Pete Hegseth actually wants to purge our military of people who may think differently. He thinks that the current leadership of the military widely and prevalently is unqualified. He wants a purge board to demote or eliminate them from the ranks, including women who may have different views. That's, again, not the kind of military that we want. And he also wants to, in effect, denigrate and decimate many of our alliances. For example, NATO, he has said we should abandon it. And his remarks about Muslims are going to be devastating to our alliances with countries that may have Muslim-dominated governments. So I think there is a wide variety of areas where women in the military, people who are different with different views, are going to be threatened, and they will leave the military or refuse to join it.